So one of the things that I think's been interesting about this beat retreat versus kind of the last couple is how the conversations evolved to be much more about business outcomes and business metrics and some of the sausage making. I think if you follow the last couple of events, we've had to start from a perspective of what are we talking about when we're using terms like advanced television and creating audiences and IDs outside of Nielsen. And we're now at a conversation where we're not having that what is this conversation, we're having the business impact conversation, which I think is great. It really signals that the market's moving. And I think, listen, that's about the consumer. I think one of the things that the industry often forgets is that we are chasing where the consumers go. And the consumers have spoken, and especially if you look at millennials. I mean, I pay attention to a lot of stats such as the fact that there was a 50% year-on-year growth of watching television from connected devices like Roku and Chromecast, and that now actually equals 10% of the 18 to 49-year-olds' TV consumption, quote-unquote TV consumption. That's big, right? And if you think about that the big spenders in television, video kind of broadly, but kind of the business of TV, if you will, are CPG, or it's auto, it's retail. They're after, in many ways, millennials. And so as that crowd shifts its behavior, I think what we're finding is the industry is now recognizing the need to catch up, and that we're pretty close to that tipping point. And so we spent a lot of time talking about what does that mean? How does that change the business? And that's everything from, by the way, it impacts media companies, it impacts cable operators, and now there's a whole new definition of what even cable operators are. And of course it impacts the marketers and their agencies as well. And so the conversations have been great as we talk about creating unique identities and what that means for all these different sides of the companies, how you do that or why you do it, and the fact it's time to do it, I think was a bunch of the conversation. We're talking about how you even define television, and now the idea of the business of this premium content ecosystem is very much a IP digital world, and what does that mean for addressability and for measurability, which is certainly, there have huge impacts. And so listen, I think the big takeaway for me is that companies are now investing in the right things, that it's actually happening, but that if you're a media company and you're not thinking about understanding your audience at scale, understanding new distribution points, and following those young consumers to where they're watching your content, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot, and you're going to have a harder time attracting the ad dollars you're looking for. On the flip side, if you're a marketer and you're not figuring out how you understand your audiences and you're not creating new measurement capabilities, and I would really emphasize that point. It's easy to target new people, but if you're not creating new measurement models, you're not measuring new things, you're not going to actually change, and you're going to miss that millennial audience. And I'd probably wrap that around the fact that I like the fact we spent more and more time talking about the creative element of this process as well. Listen, I think for many reasons we spent so much time talking about the media process and the pipes that go with media because they've been really needed to be invented over the last couple of years. What's been great is you see now more and more the conversation being like, we now have to also update how creative is developed and get the versions of creative necessary so that when we target the right audience, we measure new things, we buy against new guarantees, that we also have the creative necessary to reach that right audience. And so I think, listen, in many ways a great couple days that have focused more on business outcomes than ever before in this type of setting, and really shows we're getting ever closer to kind of quote unquote that tipping point in the business.